Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar on mobilizing domestic resources for neglected tropical diseases. This webinar is brought to you by USAID's Act to End NTD's East program in partnership with the NTD NGO Network, also known as the NNN. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. My name is Wangeshi Thuo, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an impressive lineup of guests, and more importantly, answers to some of the more complex questions we are asking as an NTD community. Questions like, how can governments prioritize NTDs when they're faced with growing health concerns and stretched budgets? Or, what have been some of the key factors that have contributed to success in mobilizing resources for NTDs? Mobilizing domestic resources, or DRM, is a nebulous task, and at times seems like an impossible task. We want our session today to give you tangible examples of how 3 countries have tackled this task. There is no secret recipe, but what we will see from Colombia, Guatemala, and the Philippines is that they had some of the same ingredients, some of the same culinary techniques, if you will, that have contributed to some of the successes that we will hear about today. Thank you to our friends from Colombia, Guatemala, and Philippines for helping us tackle these tough questions. As you can see on the agenda on the screen, and as I promised before, it is an impressive lineup of speakers. We are going to start off by hearing some remarks from 3 of our partners who will lay the groundwork on why DRM is important for our work as an NTD community. First up is Dr. Santiago Nichols from the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO. Dr. Nichols is a regional advisor for neglected infectious diseases at PAHO, and he has worked on NTDs for more than 13 years. Dr. Nichols will give us the global lens through which we should understand DRM, as well as insights as to why DRM is important for PAHO and the Americas region. Welcome, Dr. Nichols.
So thank you very much, Wangeshi, and all the organizers for the invitation to participate in this important webinar. I think that as we all know, domestic resource mobilization is key for sustainability of the national NTD control or elimination programs. But we must remember that there are some international initiatives that have been agreed by countries and the United Nations member states that give some support and framework for the domestic resource mobilization. Essentially, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals, as you know, Goal 3, which is related to better health, improving health, specifically mentions the elimination of neglected tropical diseases in Target 3.3 by the year 2030, along with other communicable diseases. So this is a great news because for the first time, neglected tropical diseases are specifically mentioned within the Sustainable Development Goals. On the other hand, in November 2020, the World Health Assembly, which again is the most important governing body of the World Health Organization, and is constituted by the members, but the ministers of health of the member states or the delegates, approved the WHO Neglected Tropical Disease Roadmap 2021-2030, which is under the title Ending the Neglect to Attain the Sustainable Development Goals. And this NTD roadmap has various targets, but one of its crucial goals is to shift from an outside-in agenda reliant on partner support and donor funding to country ownership and financing, with entities integrated in national health plans and budget, and strengthen of strengthening of country capacity is supported by partners and donors to overcome outstanding challenges. So the goal of one of the goals, so the main goals of the NTD roadmap regarding this country ownership is that by 2030, 90% of the countries that are endemic for NTDs have a budget line item for precisely NTDs. On the other hand, at the regional level, PAHO, Directing Council in 2019, approved a disease elimination initiative, that is a policy for integrated, sustainable approach to communicable diseases in the Americas, which targets a set of about 30 communicable diseases for elimination by 2030, including most of the neglected tropical diseases. And again, this disease elimination initiative is pretty much in line with the SDGs and with the NTD roadmap, and it has a strategic line action for which is strengthening governance, stewardship, and finance. So this elimination initiative provides an opportunity to efficiently allocate financial resources so that prevention, control, and elimination of communicable diseases can be achieved. However, all these international initiatives and agreements and commitments by countries are important, are necessary, but not sufficient. In the end, we must aim at resource mobilization by the countries. So domestic role mobilizations has an important role in sustainability here. And PAHO's role, for example, PAHO and WHO's role is mainly on technical cooperation. We strive for building capacity in the countries for the control and elimination, for the implementation of interventions, for the monitoring and evaluation, for strengthening programs, and also some advocacy. We don't fund programs, that is not our mission, but we do provide some seed funds and support countries to mobilize resources, both national and international. And this has been, I think, quite successful and key in some countries, as probably will be mentioned later in Colombia, in Guatemala. In Latin America, governments usually allocate resources, human, financial, and other resources to national NTD control and elimination programs. These resources are usually may be limited, but even then the countries have a budget line for the neglected tropical diseases, and these resources are complemented by partners and donors that provide additional resources to complement the domestic resources, and the governance is always on the side of the ministries of health, which coordinate with partners for implementation. So this is just a background to set sort of the international stage for the domestic resource mobilization that is required to further advance towards the control and elimination of the neglected tropical diseases. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dr. Nichols, for laying that groundwork from a global lens. Next, we will have Ariel Dolegui. Ariel is the chair of the NNN, and she has many years of experience in managing complex health system strengthening programs around the world. Currently, she is at World Vision, where she is the Senior Technical Advisor for Health System Strengthening and Cross-Sector Coordination and the USAID's Act to End NTDs West program. Ariel will share with us the role of NGOs in domestic resource mobilization. Welcome, Ariel.
Thank you for this introduction, Wangechi. It is a pleasure to be here today representing the NNN community and discussing the role of our community of NGOs plays in supporting domestic resource mobilization. As many of you know, the NNN is a global forum of over 90 NGOs dedicated to NTD control, elimination, and eradication efforts. Our vision is simply to live in a world free of NTDs, and our purpose is to enhance the contribution of NGOs towards that vision. Since 2009, the NNN has provided a common platform for implementing partners and academic institutions to align program goals and activities in support of national NTD programs guided by the WHO recommendations. The NNN has various disease-specific and cross-cutting groups, one of which is the Sustainable Systems Cross-Cutting Group, co-chaired by Kate McCracken and our moderator today, Wangechi. Their role is to assist the global NTD NGO community in establishing and implementing a shared understanding of sustainability to promote collaborative approaches for sustainable interventions for NTDs. In 2019, following extensive consultations with stakeholders from both government and the NGO community, the Sustainable System Cross-Cutting Group published a joint statement on the definition of the term sustainability. The statement provided the NNN community with a starting point to speak from the same language about sustainability, to articulate potential differences in opinions or approaches, and to identify ways to work together as a community to promote sustainable elimination of NTDs. The statement reads, and I quote, "Sustainability for NTD programming is realized when the intended result is achieved for as long as required. Sustainability is not a binary achievement that either exists or doesn't. Rather, it is a spectrum comprised of multiple context-specific factors. A central theme of sustainability is a national government's long-term commitment to a goal or results with multi-level local ownership. Sustainability and ownership are further characterized by three components: domestic commitment, resource mobilization, and accountability. These three components are closely linked and may not always be completely independent of one another. And today I want to share further with you a few points regarding the second component, responsive resource mobilization, what it means, and the roles of the NGOs to support this at the country level. Responsive resource mobilization means that countries are engaged in determining and mobilizing the inputs required to reach their NTD goals and are taking initiative to quantify and fill the resource gaps. Simply put, countries are in the driver's seat of determining what resources they need to initiate, scale up, and maintain NTD intervention for sustainability as long as they are needed. Our role as partners is to provide the necessary expressed support to help countries achieve this. Our support can take various forms of technical assistance, skills transfers, in costing and budgeting, exchange in experience across countries, and even empowering or facilitating tactical and strategic approaches for country-led responses. Responsive resource mobilization also involves leveraging domestic investments with partner contribution to elevate local ownership, even in cases where external sources of funding remain the major financial contribution to the NTD programming. And while this can be daunting for some geographies, it also is an exciting opportunity for donors and countries alike to build a responsive approach to a unique country context for stronger service delivery systems. Sorry? And here our role as partner is to assist countries in researching and identifying existing government structures across ministries or departments, as well as at different administrative levels that would be most appropriate to drive domestic resource mobilization. Finally, it is our responsibility as partners to share experiences, knowledges, and success in domestic resource mobilization to assist countries in reaching their goal. We can help identify innovative approaches with our government partners to start making that shift and continually challenge ourselves to raise the level of investment mobilized over time. It is a pleasure for the NNN to partner with the Act East program in this special webinar, where we get to hear firsthand from countries that have put this in practice, the notion of resource mobilization. Thank you.
And thank you, Ariel. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Jose Gonzalez. Jose is a program officer and health financing specialist for Results for Development, also known as R4D. There, he supports health financing and health system strengthening activities. He's also playing a major role on the Act East program. He focuses on sustainability, integration, and transition of donor-funded health programs. Jose will set the stage for us on some of the analysis that was completed alongside the Ministries of Health represented here today. Welcome, Jose. And ladies and gentlemen, for this conversation, there will be slides.
Thank you, Wangechi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. In this presentation, I will provide a brief overview of domestic resource mobilization for NTDs for the case studies we developed in Colombia, Guatemala, and the Philippines. But before diving into the presentation, I would like to thank the Ministries of Health officials from the 3 countries and our local consultants who worked with us over the past year to finalize the case studies that we are presenting today. We are really excited to share countries' experiences and key findings with the global NTD community. We hope that our findings can help inform policy and practice in other countries that face similar challenges and opportunities. Next slide, please. Yeah, that being said, I'm gonna start by giving you a quick introduction to financing and hopefully conveying to you why NTD financing matters and why it is essential to sustainability. As we know, health financing is one of the critical functions of the health system. It is one of the 6 building blocks proposed by WHO. You are probably familiar with this framework. And when we talk about health financing, we are talking about 4 main questions. First, how much is allocated and spent on health? The second question, where money comes from, is talking about revenue generation. How much money people contribute to health and the mechanisms through which it is collected, whether it is through taxes, whether it is out-of-pocket payments, or whether it is contributions to national health insurance. The third question, who controls these resources, means how resources are being pooled or how resources are consolidated and managed by the system. And finally, the last question, what and for who? It talks about how resources are allocated and spent. And this is a question particularly relevant to our countries that have many competing health priorities. But it's also a question that has to do with equity and efficiency. So for these studies, we focus on question number 4 and number 2. And those questions refer to domestic resource mobilization, or DRM, which is the topic of this webinar. And we can define DRM as the process through which countries generate and spend their own funds to provide health services for the people. Please keep that definition in mind. And now, why domestic resource mobilization is crucial for sustainability? Well, it is because countries need to secure the resources necessary to achieve their NTD goals, but at the same time, they need to maintain and expand effective coverage of NTD interventions. So for this reason, endemic countries must allocate adequate resources to achieve their goal for NTDs and ensure those gains are sustained into the future. Next slide, please. So here's what we know so far about DRM for NTDs. Those are the lessons learned from our ACTIS program. Number 1, how domestic resources are mobilized for NTDs varies by health system and context. Each health system is unique, and therefore it has specific challenges and needs to support NTD programs. In some countries, NTD interventions have a vertical structure. Sometimes they have earmarked funds for NTDs, while in other programs are decentralized and more integrated into broader health system budgeting and planning processes. Secondly, government commitments to fund NTD control and elimination goals has been more clearly observed at the federal or national level. But in many countries, NTDs rely heavily on donor and donations, especially of drugs. Lack of NTD financial data. This is probably a challenge that has been identified and also documented by our colleagues in the NTD field. We know that basic financial information doesn't provide a complete picture of government spending on health, and on NTDs. In many countries where donor support is significant, donor funding flows off budget, and moreover, some donors may not always share financial information with the government or with other partners during annual planning and budgeting processes. For this reason, it is difficult for countries to implement effective advocacy strategies to inform decision-making. And finally, there has been some progress on including NTD services in essential health service package and universal health coverage policy and programs, but clearly not enough to ensure people can use the services when they need it, and in a way they are protected from impoverishment associated with having to pay for those services. This is an ongoing challenge. Next slide, please. So in order to understand what NTD's response looks like, we conducted case studies in Colombia, Guatemala, and the Philippines, looking at focused NTDs. Those countries have achieved key elimination milestones and at the same time have successfully mobilized domestic resources for NTDs. In the three countries, the majority of the programmatic NTD efforts are financed by the government with different sources of funding for population-based interventions and for clinical care. The three-country brief, as well as the synthesis document, are available on the ACTIS website. Next slide, please. So our DRM analysis has three main objectives. Number one, we want to know where NTD fits within country health finance landscape, what the health and NTD financing situation looks like in those countries. We also wanted to understand how NTD programs are being funded and what is the status of domestic resource mobilization for NTDs. And finally, we wanted to identify entry points for NTDs, or what we call key enabling factors that contributed to resource allocation for NTDs at national and subnational levels. Next slide, please. With regard to the methods we use, we gather and analyze primary and secondary data. For primary data, we conducted semi-structured interviews with key informants, including representatives from the health ministries, some national governments, implementing partners and donors in these countries. For secondary data, we analyze published papers, program and policy documents, country reports, publicly available information from National Health and Financial Information System, and also from annual financial reports provided by the Ministry of Health. So we processed and analyzed that information from three main perspectives that were the key common themes across the countries. Number one, government-led coordination structures for NTDs and also for donors' technical and financial support. Financing arrangements countries have put in place for NTDs and the level of integration with broader government planning and budgeting structures. We know that integration is key to NTD program sustainability and also has been highlighted in the WHO NTD roadmap. And finally, we wanted to explore the level of inclusion of NTD goals and targets in relevant policies and strategies. In the panel discussion, Ministries of Health representatives will speak about these key enabling factors for DRM that we identify in the case studies. Next slide. In this last slide, I just want to bring to your attention some research questions that we can address in future studies if we overcome some of the challenges that I mentioned before, especially those related to the availability of NTD financial data. We can address some questions regarding efficiency and equity. For instance, if there are adequate funding to accelerate achievement of NTD goals and then to sustain those gains, right? It will be also interesting to know if these resources are distributed according to epidemiological needs and equity principles, We could also identify some key lessons from countries' transition from donor funding. For instance, we could investigate whether changes in domestic and external resources are the direct result of program evolution or changes in government or donors' priorities. We could also try to understand better how NTD programs are being financed in countries in transition to the centralized forms of government. We actually hope to answer this question with a new case study in Nepal. Yeah, so those are a couple of interesting questions that we can consider for future studies on NTD financing and sustainability. That's the end of my presentation. So over to you, Geshe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. And also thank you to you, Ariel and Dr. Nichols, for laying that groundwork. For those of you who are just joining us, you are right on time. We are now going to turn to our panelists. I know everyone is eager to hear from our country representatives. So without further delay, let me welcome Dr. Julian Trujillo from Colombia. Dr. Trujillo is the coordinator for the integrated management of emerging, re-emerging, and neglected disease group at Colombia's Ministry of Health and Social Protection. He has more than a decade of service with the ministry and nearly 30 years working in public health and clinical pathology. Welcome, Dr. Trujillo.
Bueno, muy bien, muchas gracias por la invitación. ¿Me das la siguiente diapositiva, por favor? Bueno, empiezo dando un breve contexto del sistema de salud en Colombia. Lo primero es mencionarles que en nuestro país tenemos un sistema de salud descentralizado que desde el año 2015 está protegido por una ley de salud que propende por garantizar la atención a todos los colombianos. En segundo lugar, contarles que en el año 2020, más del 95% de los colombianos estábamos afiliados al sistema de salud o seguro médico, que en Colombia pues, cubre la mayor parte de las necesidades de salud. Todas las atenciones en salud que se requieren en Colombia para prevenir y tratar las ETD están cubiertas por el sistema de salud. La mayoría de los atenciones, digamos, que realizan, digamos, en nuestro país tienen afortunadamente esta garantía de atención. En el año 2013, Colombia fue el primer país en el mundo en eliminar la oncocercosis, y esto siempre lo recordamos como un hito muy importante en nuestro país. La siguiente, por favor. Bueno, en Colombia, de las 20 ETD priorizadas para la región de las Américas, tenemos cisticercosis, geohelmintiasis, tracoma, leishmaniasis cutánea y visceral, enfermedad de Chagas, lepra, PIAN, escabiosis y otras enfermedades parasitarias de la piel. Esta gráfica que ven en la parte de abajo representa una línea de tiempo con algunos de los principales hitos relacionados con las NTD o con las ETD en Colombia. Hay una larga historia con lepra, con malaria, con PIAN, con enfermedad de Chagas, pero a partir de la resolución de la OPS del año 2019, la resolución CD49R19, Colombia estructuró una respuesta más organizada mediante la inclusión de estas enfermedades en el Plan Decenal de Salud Pública 2012-2021 y en un plan específico para enfermedades desatendidas 2013-2017, que incluyó por primera vez al tracoma, las geohelmintiasis, la vigilancia post-eliminación de la oncocercosis y incluyó acciones con las enfermedades parasitarias de la piel. En este momento estamos formulando de nuevo dichos planes. Siguiente, por favor. Con respecto a la gobernanza de las ETD, en Colombia, esta se gestiona a nivel nacional y subnacional. A nivel nacional, el Ministerio de Salud, dentro de su estructura organizacional, tiene dos grupos de trabajo que se encargan de formular la política pública y de realizar la asistencia técnica para su implementación, apoyándose en un plan decenal de salud pública y en planes específicos para cada patología y en normas o regulaciones que son de obligatorio cumplimiento. A nivel subnacional, las secretarías departamentales y distritales y municipales de salud son la autoridad sanitaria en su jurisdicción que se encargan de implementar algunas acciones colectivas de salud pública, específicamente relacionadas con salud ambiental, control de vectores, vigilancia en salud pública y, además de ello, contratan otras acciones colectivas con la red de hospitales. Los hospitales también realizan la atención de las personas afectadas por las ENTD. En este nivel subnacional, las atenciones para las ETD y otras enfermedades se encuentran definidas a nivel subnacional en planes que recogen esas metas, esos objetivos y esas estrategias del nivel nacional, pero seleccionando aquellas que responden al perfil epidemiológico local. La inclusión de metas y resultados en los planes subnacionales de salud obliga a los gobernantes a asignar los recursos para gestionar las ETD. Los planes tienen un componente técnico y uno financiero. Unos son de 4 años y otros de 1 año. El Ministerio de Salud hace asistencia técnica a departamentos y distritos en todo el proceso de formulación de los planes subnacionales y en el proceso de implementación de las acciones de las ETD. Esto último ha sido un factor clave que garantiza la asignación de recursos anuales a nivel subnacional para el control y eliminación de las ETD. La siguiente, por favor. Con respecto a los recursos para financiar las ETD en Colombia, la fuente está diferenciada para las acciones colectivas y para las individuales. Para las acciones colectivas, el Ministerio de Hacienda asigna recursos al Ministerio de Salud. Esos recursos son llamados Sistema General de Participaciones. Y el Ministerio de Salud los distribuye a los departamentos y distritos y municipios con criterios como la cantidad de población, la dispersión de la población o la presencia de grupos étnicos, entre otros criterios. Las secretarías de salud a nivel subnacional reciben esos recursos, los incorporan en su presupuesto, elaboran un plan técnico y uno financiero para los siguientes 4 años y elaboran planes anuales para ejecutar ese presupuesto. Estas secretarías de salud ejecutan directamente acciones colectivas y contratan otras acciones con los hospitales. Este es otro factor clave para la movilización de recursos en Colombia, el hecho de que las NTD han sido incluidas dentro de los procesos generales de planeación y presupuestación a nivel subnacional dentro de las actividades poblacionales de salud pública que se llevan a cabo en el territorio. A los recursos para acciones colectivas se suman otros recursos que envía el Ministerio de Salud para atender algunas enfermedades como la lepra, la tuberculosis, las enfermedades transmitidas por vectores y en algunos casos se suman recursos adicionales de la cooperación externa que tienen una destinación específica. Por ejemplo, el apoyo que nos ha dado la Organización Panamericana de la Salud, entre otros donantes. Los recursos específicos para realizar las atenciones individuales, es decir, el cuidado médico para las ETD y otras enfermedades, provienen de los aportes de los ciudadanos que cotizan mensualmente al sistema de salud. La ADRES, que es una institución adscrita al Ministerio de Salud, los administra y los envía a las compañías aseguradoras dependiendo de la cantidad y localización de sus afiliados. Estos recursos cubren todas las atenciones que necesitan las personas afectadas por las ETD, es decir, las acciones de prevención, de diagnóstico, de tratamiento, de rehabilitación y de cuidados paliativos, si es el caso. Prácticamente todas las atenciones, excepto las que sean estéticas, están cubiertas en el plan de beneficios al que accede la población colombiana. Las compañías aseguradoras contratan con la red de hospitales las acciones relacionadas con las ETD y todos los demás problemas de salud. Ese es un poco el resumen de la dinámica en Colombia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Dr. Trujillo, for that very detailed and interesting presentation. Next, it is my pleasure to welcome two guests from Guatemala's Ministry of Public Health and Social Assistance. Erica Lydia Chavez Vasquez is the lead epidemiologist for vector-borne diseases at the ministry. And Dr. Edgar Javier Barrios Villatoro serves as a facilitator of the epidemiology department at the Ministry of Public Health and Social Assistance. Dr. Barrios Villatoro is a medical doctor and surgeon by trade. Welcome, Erica and Dr. Barrios Villatoro.
Muy buenos días para todos, muy buenas tardes también. Me permito dar a conocer cómo es la estructura del Ministerio de Salud de Guatemala. Nosotros estamos organizados a través de 4 viceministerios que cada quien tiene acciones puntuales que realizar. El primero es el viceministerio administrativo que revisa y no solo revisa, sino realiza las acciones administrativas financieras y de recursos humanos. Luego tenemos el viceministerio de hospitales que revisa o también lleva a cabo las acciones de los hospitales en sí, que son 43 en la red total. Luego tenemos el de atención primaria, que es el que más nos interesa porque es allí donde se realizan las acciones operativas en los distritos de salud. Estamos organizados con direcciones de área a través de los distritos municipales, los cuales también están distribuidos por territorios y sectores, donde se realizan las acciones operativas. Y luego tenemos el viceministerio técnico, que es el quien realiza las acciones normativas para cada uno de los programas. El Ministerio de Salud es el que coordina con los entes operantes para poder realizar las acciones a nivel local, básicamente.
Siguiente.
Siguiente.
Gracias, doctor Barrios. Voy a comentar rápidamente sobre el flujo de los recursos y el financiamiento. Los recursos financieros necesarios para el desarrollo del trabajo de los programas de control de ETDs está básicamente bajo el cargo del Ministerio de Salud. En la estructura que explicaba el doctor Barrios, las acciones colectivas de salud, la distribución masiva de medicamentos, entre otras, y las acciones de atención de casos o los servicios clínicos están a cargo de esos niveles operativos que mencionaba de los distritos de salud que se congregan a través de las estructuras de las áreas de salud, y dependiendo del nivel del caso y de la complejidad, en hospitales también se atienden algunas complicaciones clínicas. Entonces, el dinero es captado a través del Ministerio de Finanzas, se distribuye al Ministerio de Salud y este hace una distribución a el nivel central, que hace todas las acciones de coordinación y monitoreo y supervisión, toda la elaboración de la normatividad técnica, y al nivel operativo, que ya se describió, donde se realizan las acciones. El país ha ido avanzando en un proceso a través del que va transformándose de una asignación de recursos basado en presupuestos históricos a un proceso de presupuestación por resultados. Y entonces ya hay un análisis, además del perfil epidemiológico y de los datos demográficos de las regiones que están a cargo de cada uno de los distritos. Hay una definición de metas y de indicadores que también se utiliza para evaluar la asignación de presupuesto cada año. Este proceso en el tema de las ETDs permitió además subirle un poco la visibilidad a estas entidades, porque ahora ya con la vinculación que se hizo del Plan Nacional de Desarrollo con los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenibles, ya hay dentro de la estructura programática financiera del Ministerio de Finanzas Públicas con el Ministerio de Salud unas metas e indicadores vinculados específicamente con la atención de casos de ETD. Entonces, este es un proceso que va avanzando, que le sube la visibilidad, pero que también permite monitorear la cantidad de los recursos que se utilizan para estas enfermedades y rendir cuentas a la población y poder reportar los avances en el alcance de estos indicadores. Y entonces, además, el Ministerio ha logrado mantener una coordinación importante con los socios de la cooperación. La cooperación durante las últimas décadas ha aportado una cantidad importante de recursos técnicos y financieros, y lo que quiere mostrar la gráfica es que se hace un ejercicio entre los equipos técnicos de los socios de la cooperación y los equipos técnicos del ministerio para identificar algunas brechas y necesidades financieras que permitan complementar los recursos propios del país, y entonces así es como entran estos proyectos o estas actividades a complementar con actividades de capacitación al personal, de de movilización del personal a los territorios, de poder proporcionarles algunos insumos que complementen todo el recurso que al Ministerio anualmente le asigna a la atención de las EPDs. Entonces, como podrán ver, los proyectos tienen, pues, como es lógico, su tiempo de vida, su financiamiento, y se van encadenando a través del tiempo con las acciones que financia y que desarrolla el Ministerio de Salud. En la siguiente, la licenciada va a comentar un poco sobre los hitos que se han alcanzado. Gracias.
Siguiente, por favor. En Guatemala tenemos las enfermedades tropicales. Entre este grupo tenemos arbovirosis, malaria, chagas, leishmaniasis, lepra, oncocercosis y tracoma. Entre las enfermedades tropicales desatendidas, Guatemala, según los estudios de casos y nuestro perfil epidemiológico, Guatemala priorizó chagas, leishmaniasis, lepra, oncocercosis y tracoma. Para llegar a Guatemala es importante mencionar los hitos que hemos tenido también, o sea, hablamos de nuestros logros. Entre ellos tenemos que en el 2016 Guatemala recibe la certificación de la eliminación de la oncocercosis. Y también asimismo tenemos la certificación de la eliminación del vector principal transmisor de la enfermedad de Chagas, que fue Rhodnius prolixus. Este actualmente está eliminado. En el 2013, cuando se elabora el plan para atención de las enfermedades tropicales desatendidas, es allí donde se prioriza también la movilización de los recursos, con el compromiso que adquirió el Estado. Entonces se prioriza, y de acuerdo a esto, con las estrategias que implementó el país, entre estas el proyecto de Hambre Cero, esto permitió acercarse más a las comunidades y hacer una atención holística, de bajar a los territorios no solo por hambre cero, yendo por la desnutrición, sino que incluyendo estas otras enfermedades y poderles brindar así la atención a la población, de manera de que el personal que se moviliza a un territorio debe de atender desnutrición, pero también deben de ver chagas, leishmaniasis, oncocercosis y también geomintiasis. El programa de lepra en Guatemala, actualmente hay un hospital especializado que se encarga de ver el diagnóstico, y es allí donde el ministerio le traslada a este hospital el financiamiento para poder dar la atención a los pacientes de lepra, que actualmente está en proceso de eliminación en el país. Entonces, pero son recursos propios del Estado con que se está abordando, y es un hospital especializado donde se hacen las coordinaciones de la identificación de los pacientes a nivel preventivo, más la referencia a este nivel de atención, más el seguimiento posteriores a nivel comunitario. Esta es la forma como se aborda la enfermedad de lepra. Y con leishmaniasis y todas estas tenemos la misma metodología de trabajo, donde cada territorio, cada equipo básico de salud está atendiendo de una forma holística a las comunidades. Solamente gracias. Tengo que hablar rápido.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our Guatemala team. I want to move us very quickly to our final presentation from Dr. Leda Hernandez, Assistant Regional Director, from the Philippines Department of Health. Dr. Leda has been working on neglected tropical diseases for nearly 25 years. And she first joined the Department of Health as the Division Chief for Infectious Diseases. Welcome, Dr. Leda.
Thank you. Good day. I would like to share, may I have the first slide, please? Good day. I would like to share the experience of mobilizing domestic resources for neglected tropical diseases from a historical perspective, anticipating the changes that may happen and the challenges to navigate moving forward. Next slide, please. We highlight the features of the Philippine health system that supported the NTD elimination, like first one, the national government develops health policies, plans, and programs, and secures funding from the national government to implement. Like, for example, the Formula 1 for Health in 2005 health reform policy, the national objectives for health, the neglected tropical disease elimination through the disease-free zone initiative. Then second, this is complemented by the valuable work of local government units like the provinces, cities, and municipalities in allocating funds and providing health services through the local hospitals and primary care facilities through the health centers and the rural health units. Budget allocation for health depends on the LGU priorities. So to ensure adequate funds for NTD elimination efforts, the Department of Health procures medicines, transfer funds to LGUs to subsidize the cost of social mobilization. The historical perspective does not capture the direction set by Universal Health Care Act and the reduction of the DOH budget due to the implementation of a new doctrine, which we call the Mandanas Doctrine. 88% of membership coverage is based on the 95,999,756 registered beneficiaries of PhilHealth out of the 108,771,978 projected population in the same year. 44.7% out of pocket is based on the national health accounts. Next slide, please. Considerable progress has been made with the last 2 decades of NTD elimination. 44 million Filipinos are no longer at risk from LF, while 44 out of the 46 LF endemic provinces no longer require mass drug administration. The country is on track in meeting its 2030 SDG targets for LF, while schistosomiasis is transitioning from control to the elimination phase, with 10 out of the 28 schistosomiasis endemic provinces reaching elimination levels. The country is as well committed to reduce the 28% prevalence of STH in the next 5 years. Next slide, please. Who pays for the NTD programmatic components? The national government takes care of procurement of drugs and diagnostics, training, integrated vector control and management, policy development and planning, subsidized assessment surveys, and surveillance activities. While local governments share the cost of social mobilization of mass drug administration and surveillance activities. Procurement of supportive medicines for deworming of pregnant women and children, then including the clinical care that includes also the MMDP. While some are supported by donors, other partners had also been critical in implementing neglected tropical diseases control and elimination, like the Department of Education, for the school-based mass drug administration, and the PhilHealth, the national insurer for inpatient care for LF, STH, and schistosomiasis. Next slide, please. This slide shows to you the national program funds we use for the NTD responses. This is the budget for the elimination, prevention, and control of the 6 priority neglected tropical diseases from 2009 to 2020. Thus, achieving elimination phase in 3 of the 6 priority neglected tropical diseases in the country, while the remaining 3 NTDs are in the control phase. Through the years, the epidemiologic evidence was used to generate support from the Congress to lobby for a higher budget for NTDs for the Department of Health and to prioritize NTD efforts in the LGUs. Next slide, please. I think that's all. We have come this far, and we know that the future may be lined by more questions and on how we can sustain the next generation NTD programming, where local context NTD epidemics will surface as we near our elimination. Hopefully, the uncertainty will be negated by the commitment and the work of the cadres in the field that made this possible, of which we are very grateful. And I wish to take this opportunity to honor them as we close the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Leda, and we join you in honoring them. Thank you for that. You have brought us to a very good spot in our discussion today. We are going to open the Q&A section of this webinar. I encourage you, as before, to use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit your questions. We're going to start with a question for Colombia from me as the moderator, just to get everybody moving. The first question is for you, Dr. Trujillo. Colombia was successful in having NTDs included into key health policies and initiatives. How did the ministry go about in identifying the large health sector and government priorities that you wanted NTDs integrated to? Over to you.
Bueno, muchas gracias por la pregunta. Bueno, lo primero es que a partir del análisis de situación de salud que se realiza anualmente, nos damos cuenta que estas enfermedades siguen siendo un problema de salud pública en Colombia. Lo segundo es que ha sido estratégico para nosotros incluir los objetivos, las metas, las estrategias de las ETD en el Plan Decenal de Salud Pública 2012-2021. Y también es clave incluirlos en este nuevo plan que estamos formulando. Lo anterior para lograr tener financiación, es decir, recursos a nivel nacional y a nivel territorial, en departamentos y distritos. Esta dinámica de planeación, al incluir las metas de ETD en los planes territoriales, obliga a las gobernaciones y a las alcaldías a asignar un presupuesto para ejecutar estas acciones. Esto ocurre cada 4 años, es decir, con cada gobernante, llámese alcalde o llámese gobernador en cada territorio. También a nivel territorial cuando las ETD han sido priorizadas en los planes territoriales de salud, las acciones son integradas dentro de planes de intervenciones colectivas. Es decir, se ejecutan con un conjunto, digamos, de acciones de otros programas de salud pública, lo que nos ayuda a optimizar los recursos económicos y además permite que se haga una atención más integral. Lo otro es que pues es una ventaja que tenemos y es que el sistema de salud nuestro cubre pues la mayor parte de los procedimientos que necesitan las personas afectadas y las personas que están en riesgo de las ETD. Finalmente, para que todo este proceso se cumpla, garantizamos asistencia técnica o acompañamiento permanente a las secretarías de salud durante la planeación y durante la ejecución de los programas y generamos planes de mejoramiento, hacemos reuniones en donde los invitamos a hacer la presentación de sus experiencias exitosas para que todos los responsables de estos programas enriquezcan sus programas en sus territorios. Cuando sale algún evento nuevo de salud, por ejemplo el COVID-19, procuramos integrarlo a otros programas que ya existen en el territorio. En el caso del COVID se integró al programa de infección respiratoria aguda y al programa de infecciones asociadas al cuidado de la salud. Entonces es un ejemplo de cómo lo hacemos en Colombia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very, very much for that response. I want to take a different approach because that's what we learned in this webinar, that different approaches were used in each of the countries. Guatemala, in your context, strategic coordination of donor support and funding for NTDs from all sources was a key factor in ensuring domestic resource mobilization for NTDs. Dr. Barrios Villatoro, let me invite you to explain how this process set up the government's efforts for sustainability, planning, and financing. Over to you.
Bueno, existe en la planificación, en la planeación anual, se realiza un año antes. Contiene en ellas la condicionante que se trabaja con metas físicas. Se programa a través de metas físicas con cada una de las áreas de salud. Dentro de nuestra organización tenemos 29 áreas de salud a quien se le asigna una cantidad anual para desarrollo de todas sus actividades. De tal manera de que con esos fondos propios realiza sus acciones. Además, hemos tenido el apoyo de donantes externos que han servido para realizar las acciones puntuales para las enfermedades desatendidas. No sé si queda claro.
Yes, Dr. Barrios Villatoro, that is clear. Would you like to add a comment on coordinating donors in Guatemala? Any specific activities around that?
Se hace desde el ministerio mismo, ya que es el rector de la salud a nivel nacional. Es ahí donde confluyen todas las ayudas que puedan recabarse del nivel externo. Incluso se ha tenido una oficina especial, WASP se llama, donde recaba toda la donación que se trabaja a través de cooperación internacional.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Guatemala, for sharing that. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you to please continue to add your questions to the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have just one more question for our colleague, Dr. Leda from Philippines, before we turn to the Q&A from the audience. Dr. Leda, you focused on directly advocating for resources for NTDs by working with your counterparts in the Ministry of Finance. What kind of evidence did you use for your advocacy? And what are some of the specific steps you took? And if you're able to, please share with us some of those outcomes.
Thank you for your question. The enabling factors in mobilizing domestic resources for elimination and control of the NTD. First, the NTD targets have been included in the key policy documents at the national and subnational levels of government. Second, epidemiological data have been used to create compelling arguments to increase funding, as well as prioritizing the NTDs in the national budget. Third, alignment of the NTD interventions within the health and across sectors has promoted efficiency. And last, the clear roles and responsibilities among stakeholders at various levels of the health system has facilitated the financing of the NTD services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leda. We are going to turn to the Q&A box. And the first question I'm selecting is from my good friend, Stephen Alt. You have a question to Dr. Trujillo, and your question is, how are the first and second national NTD plans adapted and adopted into the 4 types of policy instruments at the regional and local levels? He's referring, Dr. Trujillo, to slide 18. And he asks, has this been a challenge? Sorry, I'm going to pause the Spanish translator. You're on the English channel. And okay, thank you. And finally, on Dr. Trujillo, the last part of his question is, does the availability of NTD funding aid in getting the attention of those in charge of the 4 types of policy instruments play a role? Please, over to you.
Bueno, sí, gracias. Bueno, sí, en Colombia, esta adaptación de la que hablamos, a nivel nacional lo que hacemos es adoptar y adaptar las metas y las estrategias que están definidas a nivel internacional, aquellas que tienen evidencia científica, y las ponemos como nuestras metas nacionales. Eso ocurre con los planes, eso ocurre con todas las ETD. Y a nivel subnacional, dependiendo del perfil epidemiológico local y también dependiendo de las capacidades institucionales, lo que hacen los municipios y las gobernaciones es tomar esas mismas metas. En algunos casos, algunas de esas metas, no en todas se puede, pero algunas de esas se adaptan dependiendo de esas capacidades. Entonces, de manera que se despliegan estratégicamente metas, estrategias, objetivos y actividades, y de esta manera es que garantizamos esa alineación que tenemos que tener. Y pues si esto es un desafío, pues digamos que es yo diría que es la dinámica normal de la planeación. El desafío está en que los sistemas de información que estén disponibles permitan evidenciar que estos temas son un problema de salud pública en el territorio. Es decir, que se visibilicen como un problema y de esta manera se pueden, digamos, incluir recursos para su gestión. Y finalmente, por supuesto, en la medida en que el problema de salud pública sale, digamos, a la luz o es conocido, pues esto presiona a los gobernantes y a los tomadores de decisiones, a los alcaldes, a los gobernadores, para que, digamos, estén más comprometidos con la asignación de recursos para las ETD.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Trujillo, for that, and Steve, for your question. I have selected the next question from the Q&A, and I would like to ask our colleagues from Philippines and Guatemala to respond here. The question is from Tibebu Alemehu, who asks, can you comment on the political economy factors that have facilitated DRM in your countries? More specifically, he would like to hear how clinical care is included in health insurance schemes in lieu of the risk aversion toward chronic illness surgeries. Over to Guatemala and Philippines. If any of you would like to take this question, please unmute.
Sí, gracias. De parte de Guatemala, el sistema es público, es financiado con recursos de los impuestos, entonces no tenemos un
Guatemala, please unmute. We cannot hear you. Thank you.
Sorry, perdón. Sí, decía que el sistema no está basado en un esquema de aseguramiento, sino que se basa en impuestos. Está financiado por los impuestos a través del ministerio, que por ley tiene la obligación de brindar los servicios a quien lo quiera. Entonces, esa situación es particular porque no se tiene las condiciones que en otros países que están con aseguramiento enfrentan, pero sí genera ciertas limitaciones porque históricamente el país es uno de los que tiene el presupuesto público más bajo en relación al PIB en la región de Latinoamérica. Entonces, es una constante, un esfuerzo permanente de abogacía para conseguir incrementos presupuestales que permitan ir cubriendo la demanda que aumenta con el tiempo, que además con lo que se explicó antes del fortalecimiento de la vigilancia, en el caso de leishmaniasis, entonces empezaron a aparecer nuevos casos y aumentar la demanda. Entonces ese es un círculo que se va tratando de cerrar con ejercicios de incidencia para movilizar más recursos dentro del presupuesto regular. En ese caso, eso con el tema de la financiación, que como se explicaba, la coordinación con la cooperación es una forma de conseguir un complemento a los recursos. Se hace un ejercicio de planificación conjunta desde el inicio y ahí se encuentran esas brechas que el financiamiento nacional no permite cubrir, para tratar de cubrirlas con la cooperación. Entonces, por ejemplo, si hay necesidad de apoyar ayudas diagnósticas, se puede conseguir a través de algún proyecto de cooperación con el compromiso asumido del ministerio de luego dar el mantenimiento y comprar los insumos y seguir utilizando el equipo que se recibe. Entonces, ese proceso va en una línea ascendente hasta sumar lo que se planifica para todos los distritos y se hace el plan nacional. Pero como decía, el tema del aseguramiento acá, en este momento no es un problema porque realmente es un compromiso del ministerio brindar la salud a toda la población. Gracias.
Thank you very, very much, Guatemala, for that detailed response. Ladies and gentlemen, we only have a few more minutes for Q&A, and I will please ask our panelists to head over to the Q&A section, and then if there are questions you identify that you'd like to answer, please do so in writing. There is one question that was submitted in Spanish. I'm going to ask my colleague, Jose, to please help me in reading out that question. I'm not seeing it right now. Has the person moved this question? All right. While we look for that question, one question directly to you, Dr. Leda, that is coming from a good friend, Fikraeb Kebede. He would like to know the reasons why there was reduced government budget for NTDs in recent years, and what the consequences were for the Department of Health, and what mitigation strategies you have taken since then. Dr. Leda, over to you.
Yeah, the reason why there was a reduction in the budget for the NTDs, it's because of a new ruling, the Mandanas ruling, wherein the delivery of services are delegated to the local government units. And however, that the reason why there is a reduction in budget, because the budget that was in before from the central office, like for example, the procurement of supportive drugs, will now be transferred to the local government units for them to procure. So in the real sense, there is no reduction, because it's just a transfer of funds from the central office to the local government units for them to procure the necessary medicines. But at the central office, we will be coaching them by providing guidelines on what to procure, how to procure, and also we will be training them on how the procedures on how to manage the clinical complication, how to do surgery for those with hydrocele. So the funds will be transferred to the local government units. So in the real sense, there's no reduction actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leda. And Eva, your question was answered by Dr. Trujillo, and is now in the answered part of the Q&A box. I will go ahead and move us along to a few more questions. This one is coming from a good friend of the NTD team, Obiageli Nebe. She would like to know, what was the strategy used to get the attention of policymakers in providing funds to supplement partners' support? Was the government funding sufficient to address all the financial gaps? And did any of the 3 countries experience challenges with coordination of donor funding? I would like to direct this question particularly to our friends from Philippines and Colombia, who I know have been looking at this in particular. Dr. Leda, maybe you'd like to comment particularly around funding from government being sufficient?
Yeah, at first we had a challenge because in the early 1980s, they thought that, like for example, filariasis was already controlled and contained. So what we did is to gather all the data, the past researches, data, and prove to the policymakers that the disease is not yet contained. And actually, there are some new areas that are endemic for the disease. So we presented to the policymakers, and they provided some funds for us to go forward in the surveys. And then we had a call from the WHO for the global elimination of LF. So we proposed, we submitted a proposal. Then we had a guidelines from the Department of Health that we are in the elimination of LF. So we started the elimination through the guidelines of the WHO, and we provided the result to our policymakers that the strategy really works, and slowly we are eliminating one province to another. So that's the reason why additional funding was provided to us, because elimination for LF is possible if funding is provided to the program. And we also got some help from assistance from the partners, because we also showed them our action plan, our long-term plan for the elimination. And we have some gaps still in some strategies, but slowly we are getting some funding from other partners as well. Thank you.
Dr. Trujillo, I would like to give you an opportunity to comment here if you have.
Sí, gracias por la pregunta. Sí, efectivamente en Colombia abordamos, digamos, un reto muy importante, y es que la población afectada por ETD está justo en los lugares de más difícil acceso a los servicios de salud, en donde es más costoso intervenir a la población, en donde hay múltiples barreras geográficas y económicas e incluso culturales para entregar los servicios a la población. Entonces, buena parte de estas ETD se concentran en la Amazonía colombiana. Entonces, nuestro sistema, digamos, en esos sitios, los departamentos que tienen que implementar las estrategias son los que menos recursos tienen, son los departamentos más pobres. Entonces, ahí tenemos una brecha, digamos, económica importante. Y cuando analizamos cuáles son los tipos de intervenciones que tienen mayor dificultad, nos encontramos con que es la administración masiva de medicamentos, porque pues no alcanzamos, digamos, a darle cobertura, digamos, a toda la población. Entonces, digamos, estamos mejorando la planificación a nivel local, estamos integrando, digamos, más programas de salud pública y estamos comprando desde el nivel nacional los medicamentos, adquiriéndolos y entregándoselos, digamos, a los gobiernos locales para que ellos inviertan en los equipos de trabajo y en la logística que implica la administración de medicamentos. Por supuesto, sí hay retos importantes, pero también hay otros departamentos que son muy exitosos. Entonces, las diferencias, digamos, están también en la gestión que se haga en lo local.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the questions you've submitted. I'm going to ask our panelists to please go to the Q&A section. There are still pending questions, very interesting questions, particularly for our colleagues in the Philippines that our audience would like responses to. And ladies and gentlemen, those responses will be given to you in writing as we are coming towards the closing of this webinar. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody, particularly all our speakers, It has been a very interesting discussion. I have jotted down a couple of things that I believe we have taken from today's panelists, talking about data-driven advocacy approaches in the Philippines, integration into national and sub-national health sector policy and planning in Colombia, and strong donor coordination in Guatemala. These are the examples that demonstrate the paths and approaches to successful DRM. If you want to learn more about the 3 countries highlighted today, please check out the series of policy briefs recently published on this topic. They are available in the NTD Toolbox. I thank you again for joining our discussion on mobilizing domestic resources for NTDs. I'm Wangeshi Thuo, and on behalf of USAID's Act to End NTDs Program East and the NNN, I thank you for taking the time to join us today. Have a lovely evening and day. Goodbye.